humidity, rainfall, and hydrosphere. Evaporation and condensation are the processes that bring about the rainfall on the surface of the earth. The factors that influence evaporation and condensation are heat, availability of water, altitude, etc. The rate of evaporation is higher in summer than in winter, which is why rainfall occurs in India after the hot months of May and June. Humidity. The amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere is known as humidity. It varies from place to place depending on the rate of evaporation. Evaporation is the process which changes liquid to vapor. When the amount of water vapor in the air exceeds the capacity of air to retain it, it falls on the earth as rain. Two terms are used to express humidity. Absolute humidity. It is the total amount of water vapor in an air column and is expressed in grams per cubic meter. Relative humidity. It is the ratio between the actual amount of water vapor in an air column at a particular temperature and the total amount of water vapor that the air mass can hold at that temperature. On its basis, the meteorologists tell us if it is likely to rain or not. Relative humidity is measured in percentage. When it is hot, we perspire or sweat. The sweat evaporates and this has a cooling effect. However, if the humidity is high, the rate of evaporation is reduced. Therefore, on a hot, humid day, we perspire, but sweat does not evaporate. This makes us uncomfortable. Evaporation. Evaporation is an endless process, but the atmosphere cannot keep storing an endless amount of water vapor. At a particular temperature, the air can hold a certain amount of water vapor. When the air contains as much water vapor as it can hold at a given temperature, it is said to be saturated. Warm air can hold more water vapor than cold air can. Condensation. It is the process by which water vapor changes into water. When air reaches the temperature at which condensation starts, the temperature is called the dew point. An air column that holds moisture to its fullest capacity is called saturated air. Condensation of water vapor leads to the formation of clouds, fog, mist, and dew. For condensation to occur, not only the air must be saturated, but there must also be a surface on which water vapor can condense. For example, the water vapor can condense around the dust particles present in it. Clouds. When warm, moist air rises upwards, it gets cooled and saturated. When its temperature falls further, some of the water vapor condenses around dust particles and forms minute droplets of water. If the temperature is low enough, the vapor may condense into tiny crystals of ice. These visible masses of floating water droplets or ice crystals are called clouds. Dew. When moist air comes in contact with the cold ground surface in winters, water vapor changes to water and we see them as dewdrops on grass. Frost. In cold winter nights, when the temperature falls below the freezing point, dewdrops convert to ice crystals. These crystals are called frost. Mist and fog. In winters, the water vapor in the atmosphere condenses around dust particles in the atmosphere to form mist and fog. The phenomenon is common in the morning. Mist is thinner and fog is thicker. These water droplets greatly reduce visibility during winters. Precipitation. Precipitation is the process in which condensed water vapor falls to the surface of the earth. It may be in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Rainfall. Rainfall is the falling down of moisture from the atmosphere in the form of liquid water drops. When water drops grow in size, they fall in the form of rain. Rainfall is of three types, which are convectional rainfall. When the air comes in contact with the hot surface of the earth, it gets heated, becomes lighter, and starts rising up. Thus, convectional currents are formed which attain a high altitude. Water vapor condenses very quickly at that height, which results in heavy downpour. This rainfall is generally accompanied with thunder and lightning. Equatorial and tropical region often experience such kind of rain. Relief rainfall. It occurs when relief features such as mountains come in the path of moist winds Then the wind is forced to rise up the mountain. The rising wind starts cooling and condensation takes place, which results in the formation of clouds. These clouds then bring rainfall largely on the windward side. But when the wind descends on the leeward side, it gets dry and causes no rainfall. Hence, this area is known as rain shadow area. Monsoon rainfall is mainly a relief rainfall. In India, the western side of Western Ghats receives heavy rainfall, but the eastern side, being a rain shadow area, receives only a moderate rainfall. Cyclonic rainfall. Cyclones are the centers of low pressure. When the air converges from all directions towards the low pressure areas, it is forced to rise up. The rising air gets cooled, condensed, and clouds are formed, which ultimately bring heavy rainfall. Snow. When the condensation takes place at about freezing point, water vapor changes to tiny crystals of ice and falls on the ground in the form of a feathery flake or snow. It usually occurs in winters in the higher reaches of high mountains. Sleet. Frozen raindrops are called sleet. Hail. When fast-rising conventional currents carry water vapor to great heights, the water vapor freezes into hard pellets of ice that fall on the ground. This is called hail or hailstone. Water cycle. The Earth is also called blue planet because of its immense water bodies. The water bodies form a sphere of water called hydrosphere. Water makes 71% of the Earth's surface and land a mere 21%. About 97% of water is found in vast oceans, seas, gulfs, and the rest 3% in rivers, streams, and lakes. The ocean water is saline, but the water on land is fresh. The total amount of water on Earth remains the same due to the water cycle. Water changes its form owing to condensation and evaporation in the atmosphere. This process of change of one form of water to another is called water cycle or hydrological cycle. Water evaporates continuously from oceans and other water bodies. Due to condensation, evaporated water vapor turns into water droplets and falls on the ground as rain or snow. This rainwater turns into sea and ocean, from where it gets evaporated, thus completing a cycle. Salinity of oceans. Water in the oceans and seas contains a huge amount of dissolved salt. The measure of this content of salt is called salinity. In areas where the evaporation is high, the salinity in the water is high, and vice versa. In landlocked areas, the salinity is highest. The average salinity in the seawater is 35 per 1000, that is, 35 grams of salt per 1000 gram of water. The amount of salinity is variable in water. In the enclosed areas where the rate of evaporation is high, the salinity is high, like in Dead Sea and Caspian Sea. In the cold polar areas where the rate of evaporation is low, the salinity is also very low, like in Baltic Sea. Major oceans. There are 5 major oceans. Pacific Ocean. It is larger in area than all the oceans put together. Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the Earth, lies under the Pacific Ocean. It is circular in shape. Asia, Australia, North and South America surround it. Atlantic Ocean. It is almost half of the size of Pacific Ocean. It is S-shaped and covers nearly 1/6 of the Earth's surface. This ocean is bordered by North America and South America on the west, and Europe, Asia and Africa on the east. This is the busiest ocean, providing maximum trade and transport facilities between the European and American markets. It joins the Arctic Ocean in the north and Southern Ocean in the south. Indian Ocean. It is often called half an ocean. It is surrounded by Africa to the west, Asia to the north, and Australia to the east. Its deepest part is Sunda Trench, which is situated to the south of Java Islands in Philippines. It is a small ocean and does not open northwards. Arctic Ocean. This ocean is almost frozen and is located near the North Pole. This also has a number of islands, especially in the north of Canada, which also remain frozen. However, The part adjoining the West European coast remains open due to the presence of warm current called North Atlantic Drift. Southern Ocean. This is a large water body which is around the Antarctic continent. It merges with Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. Importance of oceans are: they are the main source of humidity in the atmosphere, which brings rainfall. They have moderating influence on the climate of the landmasses bordering them. They are storehouse of marine food and minerals. They are used as highways of trade and commerce. They have the enormous potential to generate energy from tidal waves. They are important part of hydrological cycle. The vast oceans covering most part of Earth are restless. Seawater is constantly in motion. There are 3 types of visible movements in seawater. They are waves, tides, and ocean currents. These movements take place due to few factors like the temperature difference and the density variation in seawater, the difference in the salinity of the seas, impact of the prevailing winds. Waves. Waves are the rise and fall of water on the surface of seawater. When the wind comes in contact with seawater, it pushes the water in the direction in which it blows. Thus, water particles start moving up and down in the direction of wind, forming curls in water. These curls form a wave. Thus, waves are oscillatory movements in water in which water particles move up and down in the direction of oscillation. Winds push water towards land, making water rise and fall. The rise is called crest, and the fall is called the trough. The vertical distance between a crest and a trough is called wave height, and the horizontal distance between 2 crests or 2 troughs is called wavelength. The size and force of the sea waves depend on the velocity of the wind, duration of the blowing wind, the distance the wind covers in the open sea. Waves are often associated with storms. Enormous tidal waves, such as tsunamis, can be very destructive. Tides. The level of water in a sea or ocean rises and falls alternately at regular intervals every day. These changes in the level of seawater are called tides. When the level of seawater rises and the water moves further up the shore, it is called high tide. When the level of water falls and water recedes from shore, it is called low tide. A place usually has high and low tides twice in a day. Tides are caused by the gravitational pull of the moon. When the sun, the moon and the earth come in a line, as on full moon night, the tide becomes higher. These tides are called spring tides. On half moon nights, the sun and moon make a right angle with the center of the earth. The gravitational force thus gets balanced, and the tides are not so high. These tides are called neap tides. Uses of tides. These are helpful in fishing, trading, and navigation. During high tides, water rushes up the mouths of rivers. This helps large ships to move in and out of river ports. In cold countries, the sea water rushing in during high tide prevents harbors from freezing in winters. This is because the saline waters of the sea freezes at a temperature lower than that of river water. The tidal force can be used to generate power. Tidal power stations are installed in Canada and Japan. Ocean currents. These are regular streams of water which move along a definite direction. These masses of water moving along a definite direction are called ocean currents. They are caused by the temperature of ocean water, the shape of the land masses, the rotation of the earth, the prevailing winds. Ocean currents can be of 2 types, cold currents and warm currents. The cold currents originate from the polar region and make a place colder than other places at the same latitude. Warm currents originate from the equatorial region and make a place somewhat warmer. These currents follow Ferrel's law and move in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and in anti-clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Ocean currents at a low velocity are called drifts. The velocity is reduced as a result of surface friction with the winds. Ocean currents also influence rainfall. Winds passing over warm currents pick up moisture and cause heavy rainfall. Western coasts of Europe receive such kind of rainfall. On the other hand, Winds passing over cold currents become cool and dry and hardly bring any rainfall. Hence, deserts are found near the western coasts of continents. The Atacama Desert in South America is an example of such desert. Effects of ocean currents are: they influence coastal temperature. The places where warm and cold currents meet are rich in tiny organisms known as plankton. They serve as food for fish. So, such places are good fishing grounds. Ocean currents help maritime trade as ships that follow ocean currents move faster and save fuel. Warm currents help to melt icebergs, which are dangerous for shipping. Sometimes ocean currents cause problems for ships. Thick fogs occur where cold and warm currents meet. As a result, this reduces visibility.